Hey guys, Banana Luck here and welcome back to another Watcher of Realms video. So today we're back with the hero reviews. So today we'll be looking at one of the other 10x heroes, Alaura. So we reviewed Constance already in the other video and now it's our time to take a look at Alaura. So she's from the Watcher and Piercer faction. So I guess putting more use to the Watcher faction because right now the Watcher faction really sucks. The only decent legendary you have is Leia. Regulus is pretty meh, and then you have the Forsaken Crutch that nobody wants. So yeah, I think it would be interesting to see whether Alora actually is a better unit. And I think at first glance, we all know that she is gonna be GR3 focused, given that in her talent, when her ultimate is not activated, she'll always be invisible. So sounds a lot like Hatsuit, but for Alaura, it's gonna be permanent. And basic attack, she just does physical damage, browsing airborne units, similar to all PSR faction units. But if we look at her details, let's just look at her stats. 11k HP, 3.6k attack, and then I think all this is pretty okay. I won't focus too much on her HP because I think she's gonna be invisible half the time. Attack interval is at 2, which is pretty low, and let's just take a look at the other units. We see Silas. Yeah, I think it's pretty average her attack at 3.6k. I don't think that's something that's too low. Of course, Hex is slightly higher, but nothing too exorbitant, I think, compared to the rest of the Lego legendary marksmen for sure. And yeah, Calypso 3.7k. But let's take a further look at her skill kit. So, okay, this increases her crit rate by 10%, and if there are no allies in the adjacent tiles, increases crit damage by 20%. So this just makes it so that it's gonna be even more relevant in GR3 because in GR3 there's that one tile we know at the site. Where was it? This tile. So she's gonna get her boost for sure. And it's 10% crit rate only at level 1. But if you max it out, it's gonna be 15% crit rate and what was it? 35% extra crit damage. So it makes her a lot easier to build if you ask me. And yeah, I think there's just a lot more flexibility in getting her damage up. And during her ultimate for each crit hit, deals 60% damage to 2 units within 1.5 tiles of the initial target, and this goes up to 80%. So even more handy for the group units that come out on the side. And let's look at her ultimate. When triggered, loses invisibility state, each attack changes to 2 strikes in a row, and damage to airborne units increases by 45%. That goes up to 60, and skill cost goes down to 900. So I think she's gonna... How you're gonna use her? You're probably gonna be running... Let's just do a GR3 run, right? To show you guys how it looks like. So normally we place Hatsuit down here, but instead you're gonna be able to place Alaura down, and she's gonna come in helpful in handling this first unit. So Hatsuit is doing that now, but Hatsuit has trouble clearing the other units because she doesn't have enough range. She's not from the Piercer faction, but Alaura can do that just fine. And yep. So you see Hatsuit loses her invisibility and she dies, and we need Torel to actually do the job here. But if you have Alaura, she's gonna clear that just fine, and you can prop her out instead to clear this big wave. So on level 21, there's gonna be 4 of these guys. Of course, Hatsuit does the job just as well, but I think having Alaura just makes it much more straightforward because you don't need to spawn and despawn units. You just need to use Alaura and build her well enough to get that done. And her extra damage to airborne unit really makes her, uniquely suitable for this stage. So I'm using Silas here instead, but if you have Alaura, then just stick her there and let her do her job. So I think, yeah, she's pretty much gonna be GR3 focus. I can really see it. It's really gonna be dependent on what you have going on in your kit at the moment, what heroes you have, before you can actually decide, whether or not this is a hero that you want to pull. Because I think her stats wise are pretty average, but besides her being used in GR3, I think maybe other content that you will see her is maybe, I don't know, some parts of the campaign where you need an invisible unit. So I think chapter 8 expert mode, normally we use Hatsuit there, but her invisibility runs out. So with Alaura, it's going to be a lot different, and she is from the Piercer faction, so she does get the extra range that Hatsuit doesn't get. So that's where I'm seeing her in terms of usage, but I'm not looking forward to pulling her. If I were to pull for the banner this weekend, I prefer Constance, because as you can see, we've already cleared GR 321, so unless they're going to come out with new content that requires more units with invisibility, I find it hard to, place Alaura into my kit. But before we wrap up the video, let's take a look at Awakenings. Oh, nice. So first one, excess crit rate is converted into an equal percentage of crit damage. So that's gonna make it fairly handy, because if you're gonna kit her out at the end game, she's gonna have 5 ancient piece. And normally all 5 of those ancient pieces are gonna have decent crit rate. So with her existing crit rate buff of 15%, it's nice to see that they're converting it to crit damage instead. So that's neat. Second one, a boost on attack. Third one, crit hits triggered in invisibility state have a 50% chance to deal an additional 80% damage to 1.5 tiles of the initial target. So it looks a lot like her passive here, Scattered Shots, but over here it just gives it to her even in her invisibility state. So this makes it such that, once you have Alaura at A3, essentially you don't have to pop her ultimate anymore unless you need a damage boost. So that's nice. And maybe you can even run her on the left side of Gear 3 actually with this buff. And then, last awakening, second last one. Crit rate plus 8%, so this is just going to convert to crit damage. And then when each invisibility state, every 10 crit hits triggered will increase damage by 10% during the next ultimate. Okay, so this just makes her ultimate do even more damage. So if you ask me, it seems that A3 for her is pretty alright. I think if you ask me, A3 is where I'll push her to if you will. I think beyond that, I don't see much use for this. I think if you're using her specifically for Gear 3, she's gonna be kitted well enough to take care of the units without having to have this. And I think even more so, you don't need A3 to be honest. You can just activate her out once you clear the one big mob that comes out for that right hand side portal. So yeah, I think Alaura is really well kitted for Gear 3. I mean, if you don't have Hatsuit ready, this is your chance to get someone almost similar. Of course, she's not gonna be as good as the other units that are, for example, like Hatsuit that, does very well in AoE content as well, so like AoE Arena, but I think Alaura, her kit is unique, and it'll be interesting to see where else people run her. And I think having permanent invisibility is just, something that we don't have in the game at the moment. She's gonna be the first one, so yeah. If you ask me though, because I've cleared Gear 3, she's not gonna be my focus. I'll rather pull Constance, but yeah. I think 2 very neat additions to the Watcher faction, and yeah. I think that's it for the video, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and as usual, feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and if you have any questions about Alaura as a hero, whether you should pull her given your existing stack of hero units, just leave it down in the comment section below. And that's it for the video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.